Tell you what, it looks like we're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. Let some folks get in live, doing a bit of a short show. It's an open show this evening. Oh. Anyway, let me know what you are working on. Any of your Mopar related questions, I can try to answer them. So, speaking of which, any vintage Mopars you guys are looking at right now? I can't really locate anything that I can that you would really want to spend money on, unfortunately. But I guess what I'm getting at is, what is vintage anymore? It's starting to look more like, the early 6.1 cars are starting to look a bit vintage at this point. So almost have to start to include that. It's weird. We're living in a strange time now where, remember when we were living in the very beginnings of the, what would you call it? The muscle car horsepower wars. I remember back, it's been darn near 15 years ago, when the 2010 Mustang GT hit. And it was kind of a big deal. 2011, sorry. Coyote 5 liter, whatever year it was, Coyote 5 liter. But in and around that time, 400, 415, 420 horsepower was huge. The 6.1 showed up on the scene at 425 horsepower. And guys, that was a number that, it was a storied number, right? Like that was that 426 Hemi horsepower number. And so a lot of folks, for a lot of folks, I should say, that is the car that kicked all of this off, right? That would have been the car that got a lot of folks into the new Mopars, myself included. There's a car that I remember like it was yesterday. It was a black with silver stripes SRT8, and it may or may not have been lowered. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that it was lowered, but it was on CCW wheels, like 20 by 10s out back and like 20 by 8.5s or 20 by 9s up front. Good looking car. And I remember thinking, damn, if I had the money, that's the car that I would probably get. And you know what, guys, the more I thought about it, the more I started thinking about it, if I were to put together another project, and I'm really thinking long and hard about this, and I'm trying to go through what would be the possibilities, what would be the best case scenario when it comes to building a vintage car. That really is it for me. It'd be a 6.1. And I know that you can't call them vintage just yet. At least you shouldn't, right? But for me, it's really more along the lines of, how do you put it? It really is more along the lines of that's the only modern Mopar that speaks volumes to me, only because it's the first. It's the first one that I saw, and it's the one that left the most, it's the one that carried the most weight in terms of a lasting impression. So there's that. But there's other vehicles that are out there. Obviously any of the LS3 powered variants, the early Gen 5 Camaros, great cars, probably a better car technically, especially if you're looking to build one based around a manual transmission. I've been thinking about that a lot lately too. And the reason why I've been thinking so much about that car is that's the car that broke my freaking heart in a lot of ways. Not the 2010, but when the Z28 was first originally released, the news was out on the 427 powered Camaro. I even said to myself then, I don't care what they do with this car. This is before a Hellcat, but and none of the LSA powered stuff or anything. I remember thinking, if they make that car, no, it wasn't. LSA was out. You get the supercharged car then. But for some reason, I wasn't that intrigued by that. I wanted that 7-liter. I wanted the 427. And realistically, I wanted that car in a 6-speed because I wanted to drag race it. It was going to be my version of a Copo Camaro, but it was going to be an honest to goodness real interpretation of the car. I'd have done a little bit of weight reduction to it. Obviously, it's got a 427 in it. As far as gearing, probably wouldn't have had to mess too much with it. Throw a drag pack wheel and tire setup on it, and just make sure there's enough money in the budget for clutches. And that was going to be it. And I would have basically been running somewhere in the, like have a high 10-second naturally aspirated manual transmission car. Because at that point in time, guys, you got to remember, I was still doing a ton of drag racing up in Dallas at Crandall, one of the best tracks ever, 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 by the way. It's a shame that it shut down. Anyway, I was still doing a ton of racing. I had a notchback, an SSP notchback that, was a fun mid 12-second car. And anyway, that was going to be my next car, and that was going to be it. There was nothing else really to talk about for me because it's got the 427, it's got the manual transmission, it is a Camaro. What more can you want? Well, I don't need it to cost $72,000 flipping freaking dollars. So there was that. So anyway, if I were to do anything, to be honest with you guys, I'd just probably, for a project, build a really solid LS3 powered whatever with a cam, do some work on the intake and pretty much call it done. Just build something that everybody else has done a mazillion times because it works, and just build something fun for the street. If I were to build something else, and really in that case, you'd just be looking to try to make something that's faster than the Fox body that I currently have. And aside from putting a different intake manifold on that car, which it kind of desperately needs, hell, I don't even get a chance to drive that thing very often. So, and it's not like I hate driving it. It's just that it's a Fox body, and every time you walk past it, you got to throw money at it. So I guess where I'm going with this is, for a lot of folks looking at building any kind of a project, the money just gets completely out of hand. And vintage cars, anything made in the 60s or 70s right now, is not probably the best proposition. The only reason why I say that is because of rot. Even if they've been kept in a garage, you get garage rot issues, which are some of the worst because when they're kept in a garage, you can look at the car and it looks flawless. And then you go to drive it and everything that's rubber is still dry rotted. So you're still going to be replacing about, by the time it's all said and done, you're looking at probably $2,500 to $3,000 worth of just miscellaneous. Right? None of it is sexy. And that's assuming that you can make it by with just, some rubber parts and hoses and belts and little minor things like that. Worst case scenario, you end up in a situation like I was in where you're replacing all the brake lines. And realistically, unless you've got receipts, if you can pick up a nice older car, first thing you got to do, brake lines all the way around it. Don't even think about skimping on that. Because I damn near figured this out the hard way. luckily it wasn't any kind of big deal, and it was a later vehicle, so it had a split front and rear master cylinder. But yeah, I had the rear brake line blow out on Sierra. So anything is possible, but that's one of the reasons why I don't really get all like I don't really get super worked up over the prospect of building a vintage car, because I've kind of sort of already done that a little bit. Like, I've had a taste of it, and it could have gone way worse than how it went with me. So anyway, let me check in with you guys real quick. Run with the Hemis is in. Skids. Oh, got the bald guy with the flex. I like it. Saying what's up. How's it going, Professor from Limes? Going good, man. Nitro, what's up, man? Rome saying, found a nice dart with the 318. Might jump on it now that my Galaxy is done. That dart is still for grabs, like right over here. I just haven't been by there to talk to him because I'm kind of holding out hope that that Aspen RT someday shows up for sale. Because that Aspen would be right up my alley. This kid's asking, did the Camaro's return in 2010 with 400 plus horsepower help kick this off? It was part of it. Yeah, that fifth gen car. You know, the fifth gen Camaro, when it finally came back, but it was that car, the SRT8 and the Mustang, and now we had a 3-horse race. And the cool thing, let me put it to you like this, guys. If you weren't really paying attention to the car scene in the early 2010s, let me tell you why this was a cool point in time. It was cool as hell because there was not a supercharger to be seen anywhere. Not really. I mean, the GT500, yeah, and then later the ZL1, but it was nice because you didn't have all of this. Oh, how do you put it? Just the member measuring contest. Once the Hellcat hit the scene, that's pretty much when all the shit hit the fan, because nothing was like the Hellcat. And it made, for a lot of folks, for a shite load of folks, it made all of the NA cars obsolete. No other car had the impact that the Hellcat did. And I mean, people were forgetting about GT500s and ZL1s once the Hellcat hit. 700 plus horsepower, and you were NHRA certified at a 1085. Every one of the Hellcats that I know of in clean air would go quicker than that. Bone stock on a tire, and on a drag pack it'd go even quicker still. It's the only car that was faster than its certification that Dodge ever put out, that was in the Hellcat family, by the way. So just some things to think about. That's the kind of impact that car had. That being said, it was that's not a good thing, right? Like it was really cool when you had the 6.1 versus the 5.0 versus the 6.2 coming from Chevrolet. It was just kind of a cooler time, and so there for a hot minute, it was very much like, you know, the golden era of muscle cars, just for a minute or two. Itch is in. Skid saying, good evening, fellas. Mac is in. Sovereign, what's up, man? Skid saying, I've seen a handful of Camaro 5th gens that would be fun to tinker with. Let me tell you something. Okay, so benefits. Easy to work on. Parts are crazy plentiful. They respond well to every little thing that you do to them, primarily because they're undercammed. They've come with a good intake manifold. There's a lot going on for the 5th gen. Matter of fact, I used to say this over and over and over again. I said it a lot at Pikes. The 5th gen Camaro is the Fox body for 2010. In fact, it's better. It's significantly better than the Fox body for 2010. So, anybody got a 5th gen Camaro? I got a Fox body. Let's talk if you're looking to build a Foxy. Because the 5th gen is one of the very few cars that I've driven that that I have to like stop for a second because they're that good. They really are that good. Let's see. Yeah, 13 or 14 skids for the LS7 Z28. Did those have issues with the heads? The Z28, all the LS7s did. Um, the smart money is to pull the LS7s off and a really good set of LS3 heads. Let her rip. Lots of 600 horsepower combinations running around that look a lot like that. Oh, Skid saying, just looked up a 2015 Z28, wants 70 grand still, very low mileage. I'd want it to have at least 30 to 40,000 miles. The 6,000 mile example would make me a little nervous. It'd make me nervous too. Skid saying there's a white Z28 in Houston, 41,000 miles, 49K. Not crazy, but still a little spicy. Apparently they hold their values. They did. Matter of fact, it's so, it's so weird to me. I mean, the Z28, it's a better car in a lot of ways all the way around than a regular Z28, but damn, nowadays, what does a fifth gen go for with a six speed? I mean, for me, shit. I'd probably have to go with, I'd have to go with the LS3 variant, honestly. Oh, Sam. Yeah, man, guys. Yeah, big thoughts heading out to all you guys in Florida. Get the hell out of there, get to higher ground or something, guys. Sam saying for me, a Common Rail 5.9 is a platform to build on, or possibly the 5.7 LS. Yeah, for sure. 5.7 LS is a the weird thing about that engine is it's everybody seems to forget about it, but the LS6 that I had in my Z06, I put a hurting on hell. I used to put hurting on Hellcat up from a roll race with that car. Sovereign's asked if I heard from Paul. No, I haven't. I have not. He's handling his own right now. Dude, brake stuff. Hell yeah. 97 Camaro 30th anniversary. I almost bought one. White orange stripes. Had the LT4 in it. They were fast back then. They were really pretty damn fast back then for sure. Man, the fourth gen stuff I do like still to this day. And they're the folks of a certain age. If you've got a clean fourth gen, they will pay the top dollars for it. Unfortunately, over the years, just like with any Camaro, Mustang, or whatever, guys have, I mean, they've been turned into race cars and they've swapped hands 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Um, that's just kind of the way it goes. So a clean, well-kept version of one of those cars, man, it's pretty tough to come by, but if you can find one, it's worth it. Oh shit. Sorry to hear that. Sam can't evacuate. Well, as they keep saying, hunker down. We've heard that down here plenty of times. Skid saying, I'm with you, B. You can scoop up a 6-speed SS, and I prefer the 11 to 12s, like 20 to 30 grand, depending on mileage. Yeah, and those cars are getting more and more popular because it's it's just such a good combination. It's such a good car, and they respond well. They do everything well. So, yeah, I don't know. The very last, I'm trying to think of this, the very last fifth gen, you talk about teaching you a lesson. The very last fifth gen we had on the dyno was a Hot Wheels Camaro. Really pretty car. The kid that owned it worked his ass off and he wanted a cam in this thing. And I put together a cam that was, I mean, it was a good overall street cam, like a very, very garden variety generic stage 2. I think it was a 220, was it a 224, 230? No, 226, 232. And it was on 113-degree LSA 109 ICL because he wanted it to, he didn't want to build like a super race car, but he wanted something that's going to sound good, something's going to run good. And this one did. I mean, it had a nice subtle chop to it, and it made really good power once on the dyno and spun the number one main bearing. And I'm telling you, there was absolutely nothing wrong with that engine when he brought it in. And it's an LS3. There was nothing wrong that we did to it just in the assembly process. It's just, and this is kind of a PSA to you guys. Anything can happen to a mechanical contraption, and LS3s do. No engine is perfect, and if you catch a bad LS3, they can do stuff like that. So, this kid's saying, "Stay safe to Sam." Yes. So really, it's more in line with making sure that if you're looking to put together a vintage build, or you're trying to put together like some kind of a vintage type of a project, don't immediately drop all the way down to the 60s or 70s. I would say that really early 2000s, late 90s, all that is considered vintage now, or antique. And I would jump on that and build something that is really no more than 23 or 25 years old. And I know that's, I don't know. I know that may not be what a lot of folks like to hear, but if you stick to that recipe, let me tell you everything that you get for that decision. Obviously, fuel injection, you're not dealing with carbureted or trying to make a carbureted engine run on throttle body fuel injection or something like that, because that intake was never designed for that. Anyway, you get fuel injection, but you get modern fuel injection at that, OBD2, tunable, but you get all of the modern tech in the engine. You get phenomenal cylinder heads. You also get overdrive transmission. And that, to me, guys, I got to tell you, is worth not, okay, I have not bought, and it's probably a good thing, but I have not bought boxy Chevys specifically because they were 3-speed automatic trucks. And I won't own another 3-speed automatic vehicle, not anything that's going to be 1-to-1. It's simply not worth it. Unless, no, not even in that case. I'll say if you had a big block, lots of torque, something that wouldn't spin past about 53 or 5,500 RPM, and you could gear it like a 238 or a 258 gear, so that it would run on the highway. That's the biggest issue that you're going to run into with a vintage car, is that it will not roll with modern vehicles on the highway. Perfect example of this. Anytime you see any vintage car going down the road, unless it's been modified with a new transmission or like a gear vendor's overdrive, that thing's only going to be going like 65 miles per hour, maybe 70 at the most. Any faster than that, and that engine is wailing. And it's just unnecessary RPM. It's unnecessary noise. It's uncomfortable. And it's just absolutely unneeded at that point. So for me, it's got to have an overdrive. And that's where the conversation begins or ends. Does it have an overdrive? Okay, it does. Okay, cool. Let's see what we can build with it, because cars that led up to, again, the late 90s-ish era, all of them have overdrives, all of them have everything that you're looking for, and all of them are very well supported by the aftermarket. That's the most important part of this. Overdrive, cool. How supported by the aftermarket are they? Oh, really? Supported? Cool. But even along with that, this is like the big three. How easy is it to work on? How smart was this engine put together? This is where like Fox body Mustangs really suffer because they've got that weird timing chain cover thing where the water pump, the channels go through it, they leak. Um, and there's nothing crappier than that, right? So, and they leak coolant, which is another thing. There's just it's annoying, right? And to have to reseal an engine when you could just remove a water pump and put a water pump onto it without removing the balance or anything like that, to have to reseal something, that's a lot more buenoer than having to worry about the other stuff. So for me, and I've said this on the show before, there have been a number of occasions where the Hellcat would have gone to be replaced with a turbo LSX pickup truck combination. That nearly happened not once but twice. And the deal was all but done on, there was a white and a gray truck. There were two different trucks. Um, and it just couldn't come to terms. But I thought that everything was going to be a wrap with that great. And the reason why I wanted a truck, number one, I'm more of a truck guy than anything else. Number two, you can actually, it's practical. I don't know. There's like this thing in my head where I've got to be able to see some level of practicality, in one way, shape, or form, or else it'll kind of croak for me. Um, and in other words, it has to have like a secondary capability, like Fox bodies. They kind of fall outside of that, but anyway, um, I like the trucks. Screw it. So I wanted a fast truck. Like I say, I almost bought two of them. Nothing ever really happened with it, and by that point, the Hellcat was gone, and I just kind of wanted to take a step back a little bit and maybe take a look at other potential projects. But it never really, they obviously never really came to fruition. And the ones that I was kind of taking a look at, the more I looked at them, the less I wanted to look at them. So anyway. Skids, yeah. Well, I would throw a Pro Charger at it, long tubes, and call it good. That's all you got to do. Marco, Alex whooped some ass, bro. I know it. I know it. I only caught the highlights, but dude, Alex did a kick-ass job. One of my favorite fighters now. Oh, T minus 12 hours or so until landfall. Man, stay safe, Sam. Seriously. Skid saying, go get a C5. I'm not going to do the C5 thing again. Marcus saying, Fox Body C5 or an early 2000s, the new Edge. Yeah. I don't know. I've got Foxy, and I mean, I could get it cleaned up, get some body work done to it. And I don't know. We'll see. Sam's liking a Cam 302 and a 30 over 350 for sure. Skid saying a couple of guys at church have a Cam 5.3s in their 2000s Cat Eye Chevy trucks. Sound really good. Yep. And cat eyes are going to be the next big thing, by the way. Be on the lookout. Mark my words. Oh, Sam said he missed out on an LSC. Skid's asking, are the 4.6s with the new Edge Stangs big headaches? Always heard good things about them. No, I used to use them as work vehicles. Extremely good gas mileage, powerful enough to get you around. I never ever had any issues with those cars, and I would put 40 to 50,000 miles on a car per year. So, I mean, I'd just get out and beat the living hell out of them, trade them in, get a new one, and rinse and repeat. I always liked those cars quite a bit. DM is in. Good evening, gentlemen. Sam, yeah, the Lincoln LSC ran good. I had a buddy of mine that was huge into those cars. Oh, Sovereign's checking in. Besides motorcycles rule, yeah. Um, yeah, man. I've been really paying a lot more attention to this, what they're calling SS, the super sport class, just a new sport class of bikes. I've been paying a lot of attention to them, not because I'm going to get one, but because to me it's such a weird anomaly to see vehicles that fall into that category doing as well as they are. I, ju- I so I come from a place with motorcycles that's very much similar to it's the equivalent of parents letting their kids play with jarts. Remember those things? Those are those metal, big ass metal darts that you would throw, and people would get killed. They'd go to the emergency room, so they got this dart hanging out of them. Terrible idea, but an awesome idea too. When I was coming up, there was no such thing as uh, like a beginner motorcycle. I mean, there were, but not like what there is now. Not a beginner sport bike. Back then, it was Ninjas and Hurricanes, and that was the top of the food chain. And you turn your kid loose on one of these motorcycles, and they'd figure it out. Especially since all of us came from a dirt bike, either racing, riding, hooning, whatever. We all came from that background, so it was just a normal progression, right? And anyway, we were none of us were immune to miles per hour on two wheels, or rather, we weren't intimidated by miles per hour on two wheels. We've been doing it for so long. It was just a change of venue, really. But now, manufacturers are introducing some bikes that are, I mean, they look good, but they're a little on the neutered side. See, Skid's checking in with Sovereign. Yes. Marco saying, build a regular cab Dodge or Ford. Yeah. Man, I'll tell you what. Even if you left it naturally aspirated, the Ford pickup trucks, man, they are so good. Smoking Hot and I took Whitey out for just took out to dinner tonight, and I just really like driving that truck, man. It's strong, it's fast, it does everything great. And the funny thing about that truck is it's a solid 13-second truck. I can promise you that with that tune, a regular cab four-wheel drive version of that truck would easily be in the mid 12s. No question about that. Like a 1270 would be like on accident, you'd run a 1290 with it, right? So they're quick, they're fun, and that's one of the things that I like about them so much is that you can just have so much fun with those things. Skids checking in with DM. Hey, Skids. The new street sport bikes, yes. And that's I guess it is street sport. I'm trying to get, like, I'm so used to I'm just, again, it's hard for me because, you know, back in my day, but it's true. And it's a progression. It's not a regression. Also, in fact, it's a smarter play to have a street sport motorcycle than it is to have like an R6 or, you know, a ZX6 or something like that. Bikes like that, and I can make the case for gearing all day long, but the reality is that they are tightly wound. And something with a lot of torque, something that can just kind of drive you down the road, that there's a lot to be said for that. And I've said this a lot about my Bonneville. That thing will usher you down the highway at whatever speed sounds good to you. You want to buzz along at 65 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour? It's happy to do it. You want to cruise down the highway at, I don't know, 85 or 90 miles an hour? Just as happy to be there too. It only gets buzzy at 100. And but you're hitting a brick wall with aerodynamic drag anyway on a motorcycle like that. So you can't. People love talking about motorcycles and top speeds and things like that, but the reality is that most of that is irrelevant. A bike that, and the point that I'm getting to at the Bonneville, the reason why I'm even bringing it up when I'm talking about the street sport class, 80 horsepower and 80 pound-feet of torque to the rear tire, and it's available all the time whenever you want it. That's a lot of fun to ride. Even if you re-gear or the motorcycle is just naturally geared with the exact same percentage spread as like a Bonneville or something like that, it's just constantly going to be screaming at you. And that gets old real quick. And if you put a different exhaust on that machine, it's not any fun. So actually, one of the reasons why I did end up turning loose of that Kawasaki, the Cafe, the reason for it is that Brock's exhaust, man. I should not have done that. It needed an aftermarket exhaust, don't get me wrong, but to have that kind of exhaust exiting where it was, it was a weird, in the tone of it anyway, it would just absolutely wreck an eardrum. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really not getting that deep into my Katana. It just does not need it. And I gotta admit too, I probably won't tune the Katana. Leave the stock filter where it's at, leave the tune where it's at. I've got the slip-on on the bike. What I may do at some point is a lighter weight battery, only because the battery placement is so high and back on the battery, on the Katana, that the placement is just not conducive to handling. I'll put it to you like that. But really, it's not hurting anything right now, and I'm really enjoying that bike. So, but even that bike can be a little bit buzzy. So, anyway, we're waiting on some parts for it to come in. Lawn darts, yes. Skid said exactly. We had 2 strokes, so we were used to hooliganism, but I would land on grass or dirt when I wiped out. Yeah, no, that's true. Sam saying, what's going to be big is the 03 Ram with the V10, Cat Eyes 03 to 08 Rams, and something I'm noticing in my area is mid-90s Dodge trucks. Those are kind of making a comeback. Some are saying Ford Rangers look interesting. I'd love to get a boxy Ranger. That was the dropping a 302 in one of those back in the day was a real popular street race combination. You see stroker 302s like 331s were really popular. And 331 Canfield heads, 11.5 to 1 compression with, you know, what you would consider like a stage 3 cam today, with a Holley Super Victor intake and no hood. And those things would rip. I think they all ran AODs in those trucks. Rangers, yeah, they were reliable. Real reliable. Yeah, I had a 4-liter. In fact, I had a 4-liter Splash. And I would, and as a 5-speed truck, I would really like to get that one back. 3 liters are good too. But the 4 liters are tough to find. Oh, Skids, I want a ZX6R just so I can have something that is somewhat uncomfortable. But I do miss the good old days of the CBR 650, GSXR 600. I need a Kyle bike in the stable. Yeah, they're good to have. Oh, Skid's dad had a 93 Ranger 4-cylinder. Yep. So I'm saying 302. Oh, yeah. Breakstuff said, I have to agree, as I'm getting older, I like quieter motorcycles. My KZ and ZRX are loud, but I left my Concourse 1000 stock, and I love just hearing the sweet induction noise when I open it up. And yeah, it's not even so much a loud thing. Like my Daytona is loud, like it's properly loud. But the can is all the way back here. The problem with the Cowie is that where it terminated was just, it may have been just pointed at your head. That's another issue that buddy of mine Chris had with his bike, is that when he gave me the M4 slip on off of his bike when he swapped over. He's now got the Gixxer 1000 with a Yoshimura can on it, but which sounds really good. But those cans are far further back, so I don't really ever hear the Daytona, but it is definitely back there raising hell. See, I'm saying a Dakota with a 4.7, I've always wondered how hard it would be to swap in a 5.7 in one of those late model Dakotas. The 4.7's a pretty capable engine. I wouldn't sweat it too much. So I'm saying rock one of those Honda Goldwings. Okay, so check out a 1976 Honda Goldwing. If I was to do a Goldwing build, it would be on one of the earlier Goldwings, because they are actually a pretty trick motorcycle. And guess what? They have a kickstart option. In part of the gas tank has the kickstart lever. What would be the gas tank? The gas tank, that's just a cover for like a trunk area on those things. Goldwings are the shit. I really do like Goldwings. Skid's talking about LS swaps in a Dakota. I wouldn't be surprised. But there's a lot of cool stuff that's out there, man. I just the more I look at the prospect of trying to do, because I've been kind of perusing Marketplace a little bit, and a couple of things that I've noticed though while I've been perusing, prices of these cars are starting to drop. I can tell you that as a trend, Challengers, Cudas, any of the Chevrolet stuff, basically all of the Mopars are really starting to come down in value. And I've been looking at all kinds of stuff. Sport Furies, Polaris, Belvederes, all of those cars. And I think the reason for that is a lot of guys just really aren't that interested in that type of car anymore. I would love to see the price of Trans Am start to drop, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. Oh, Sovereign's hanging out with Sam. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Sam saying he's checking out. Man, all the best, brother. Hang in there. Brake stuff. The Yamaha XS11 had an emergency kicker too. Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I will say this, guys. I'm having more fun with the motorcycles, especially now that I'm kind of back into them pretty well, although I haven't done one thing, and I'm kind of proud of myself. I have not bought a track bike yet, and I'm not doing track days. And that's something that I'm kind of both proud and disappointed with myself about. I would probably need to find I wouldn't even try to find, just any generic GSXR 750 would be ideal. Anyway, yeah, I kicked around the idea a little bit early on. Just build one and be done with it. Either find a 675, the Triumph 675, the GSXR 750, which I personally would probably, I'll just say this, as far as motorcycles, it's absolutely one of the best bikes, hands down, ever. But that's probably because of just my own experience. I used to have one as a track bike. Oh, Car Wash is in. Hey, be looking good, my man. Thank you. Saying hunkered down from Milton, man. I feel for you guys, man. Keep us posted. Be safe, guys. That is no joke of a storm, man. Break step. Why not take the Katana down to 1320? You know, I just don't have a local track that is. I don't really have a local track. That's the main thing. I could do maybe some draggy videos with it, but that would be about it. Bikes are kind of funny though for me for drag racing because to really do it right, it needs to be set up for drag racing. And you can run anything down the quarter mile. The problem is you get a whole lot of mile an hour, but not a lot of ET with bikes a lot of the time because you're trying everything you can to keep the front end of that bike on the ground. And the good thing about the Katana, though, is that it's an easy bike to ride. It only gets a little bit of shimmy in third gear, fourth gear, wide open. It's a pretty stable bike to run through the gears. Like I can fan that bike to, 100. It's funny. That bike will just trumpet to 130. It's just yip, 130. And if I stay in it, it'll carry easily. Well, it's every bit as fast as the Hellcat up top. It's going to accelerate harder for a portion of that, but it's pretty happy even at 150. I think 156 was the fastest I'd run that bike up to at this stage so far. At least that's the last thing I saw on the speedometer. So really more like 150 real number. It's a neat bike. There's been, if my local track was still around, I would not have gotten rid of the Hellcat. I'd still be running that thing every weekend. But if I were to build a bike, it's really hard to beat what works the best, and I would just build a Hayabusa and have something just Hayabusa with a shot of nitrous and call it basically done. Oh, Skids is like in the 400s. They're good bikes. I've got so much experience with the 750 that it'd just be like, it'd just be like revisiting a buddy. In fact, I was sitting on one. I'd gone to go to a dealership to get some more stuff for the Katana, and they had a 750 sitting there, and I'm thinking, God, adjustable rear set, quick throttle, a tune, full Yoshi R11 exhaust. One down, two up on the gearing just to make it nasty. Oh, shit. Yeah. Anyway, fun bike. So I'm saying, just stay safe on a bike. We need you in the channel around for a long time. I hope to be. And I'm not as crazy on the street as a lot of guys are. Like, I've got friends of mine that'll feather tires on a day out in the twisties. I'm not really. I'll put it to you like this: I can tail gun really fast guys with no problem. But the only reason why I say it like that is because I am a queen bitch when it comes to road conditions, and if I pick up on anything funky on the street, I shy up a little bit, and that's only because I've had close calls that I've gotten away with some shit with. You hope to learn from your mistakes and learn from the mistakes of others, and that's one of the reasons why I will bitch up a little bit on the street. But I'll tell you this, it takes a lot to get me to that point. And I've already found myself kind of wishing I would have put 190 55s on the back of that Katana, because 190 50s, talking about tire sizes, can be a little lethargic. And That Katana, it's a GSXR 1000 chassis, swing arm, and engine, circa 2005. It's got the only downside. It's this is both a blessing and a curse. It's got a little bit of a nanny up to about 7,000 RPM, but it kind of fits the power output. It'll keep you honest. I'll put it to you that way. But it's a fun bike, and like I say, it takes a lot to get me to that point. But there's been a few times where, and this is why it's hard to tail gun if you're in a group of really fast guys, because the first guy checks out. Okay, well you're collecting real estate. So if he checks out 25 yards ahead of you and you check out with him, you're checking out 25 yards too early in many cases. So you end up with gone, 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 and you end up with a big spread in between the bikes because you're not able to check out at the same time. You're not on a track either with known variables with road conditions and stuff like that. So what I've found myself doing is I'll just catch up, but I'm not really catching up the right way. I'm catching up because I'm carrying too much corner speed, and that can be that's what gets you into trouble. So that's one of the things I've just had to chill out with. Oh, Breaks up saying I'm lucky. Pennsylvania has a lot of strips, half an hour from Maple Grove. I'm jealous. Derek's asking, can everyone put their emails in the chat? No, we cannot do that. This kid saying, hell yeah, Boosa, baby. Hang on just a second. Hold, please. It's saying, hell yeah, Boost, baby. Here you go. I don't know what, I've never asked anybody ever comes up thinking that. I do not ever put your email up in a chat, guys, or any other personal info like that either. I don't know who that dude is. DM saying I had a Boost, it was nice. Yeah, dude, I just kind of want to build a Boost, man. I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. But it also lends itself a little bit more to my past life in roll racing. So that's probably one of the big reasons why I like bikes like the Hayabusa ZX14, properly set up Gixxer 1000s, and some of the leader bikes can do the exact same work. Just saying, oh, Breaks up. I'm not shy. I lean my bike over in the twisties, but I do fear powering out hard sometimes. I prefer to power out real hard. I'm really bad. Like, that's one of the things that I will do, and that I will feather up a set of tires pretty quickly, is how I exit. But the idea is that you don't want to carry too much corner speed. The way, in fact, Chris is really good about explaining some stuff, and he's like, dude, you just need to let the bike work. Let the bike do its thing. Don't try to trail brake or do things like that on the street. That's going to get you into trouble. You'll hear a lot of times guys will say, oh, you need to work on trail braking. You need to do this, that, and really, yeah, okay, it works. Yeah, you're doing track stuff on the street. Trail braking, all that means is that you brake hard up, and then you, as the bike is leaning over, you roll off your brakes as your lean angle increases, and that's just you're working the traction diagram, if you will, and so that's in essence trail braking, but it's not so much that. It's just that I would be trying to go too fast through the corner itself. So, and I'm a little bit bad about that anyway. So I just need to especially on roads that I'm not super familiar with. I'll think I know what's going on with the lines, and then I will figure out pretty quickly that I've absolutely chosen the wrong line. And because I swear, last time we were out, I was like, God dang, it's every one of these these curves. Are they all decreasing radius? What's the deal? Like, is my entry speed that high? I mean, at one point there was a left-hander, and I mean, I'm looking over here, I'm looking through the corner, and I'm going, what the hell? So at one point through it, I'm seeing the side of the road coming this way. Okay, that's not a good thing. So I literally just arced that bike over, and I mean, I made it through, obviously, but yeah, that was a mess. DM said I had to sell the boost, so I couldn't commute on it. I had too much work gear. Gotcha. Tank bag, tail bag, is what Skids is saying. We've seen cops use in Galveston County. They've used them as cop bikes. Zephyr's in. What up, Professor? Hope all is well. It is. It's all right, Sovereign. I took care of it. Sidecar for it then. Kevin's saying, aloha here. I'm new here. Datsun 510. Thoughts? Dude, put some inkies on it. Throw an exhaust on it. Let it rip. Skids, not one person follows random guy's request because your subs are all badass. Street smart, not to mention very good looking. You forgot very in that. Oh yeah, the thing is we have awesome back roads out here, but oftentimes the road services suck, especially after winter, for sure. Yeah, these are all rural B and C roads. And so that's the thing that, you know, you've got dust. That's the one thing that freaked me out one of the first times, freaks me out every time, is there's one nice, I keep talking about left-hand sweepers, but it always seems to happen in this case. Nice, real long left-hand sweeper, and right in the middle there's a dirt road that exits onto that road. It's like, shit, and these guys are just, and I'm going, oh, yeah, okay, here we go, you know, and, you know, just get out there and have a fun time ripping it. Kevin said, I got an old school Yamaha dirt bike sitting free. Skids is saying, done. Yeah, bring it out. Yep, B Mason is usually live on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Times vary anywhere between 8 and 9. Kevin saying 80s Yamaha. DM saying, send me your email, stranger danger. I know, I saw that. That was crazy. Sorry, saying super red flags if they ask for feet pics. Hey man, listen, if it'll help me buy another hot rod, I might just have to go on the OF and put my hairy toes up there. Who knows? Oh, Carr saying, I saw your video on the TBA Hellcat idler and tensioner pulleys. Looking back, do you recommend them along with a rip and tuned adjustable supercharger tensioner? Yeah. Well, the supercharger tensioner, not so much, because you'll get there with the pulleys. And everything else, nah. Oh, the thermoclocker. So I did use that on mine, but I wanted to, I just wanted a little bit extra clearance there, but you don't have to run that. But I did have that one on mine. Kevin saying, I live on the Big Island, Hawaii. Can't ship. Come get it. Well, guys, with that, we are coming up on an hour. I have got to check out. Hey, guys, thoughts and prayers for everybody out in the FL. Make sure that you're checking in with everybody. Sam, if you're still catching on this, hopefully everything goes well for you. Everybody else in Florida, man, you know, prayers go out, thoughts go out to you, man. It sucks. But anyway, guys, I do have to wrap it up. Hey, listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody, because chances are they need it way more than you know. Love each and every one of y'all. Would not do this without you. And with that, That's a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.